Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Adobe Live from the sofa here in the UK. Happy Friday. Friday is Tony Day. Tony is with us again. Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Stephanie and Emma and everyone else.
Hi.
Hey.
And of course, we have Emma again. Emma is our new community manager. Welcome, Emma. If people haven't seen her,
Thank you.
now is the day if you want to ask anything. So Rufus is not here anymore, just incognito in the chat, of course. Yeah, we are doing these streams thanks to Rufus for the community every day, Monday to Friday, no matter if we have bank holiday or not. Monday to Friday, we're here for the community in the UK with UK artists. If you guys have any questions, put them in the chat and Emma and I will read them out loud to Tony. Tony has prepared something for us today.
Yeah, I've done a few things today. Yeah, but there's no ukuleles today, by the way, or banjos.
Any other instrument, Tony?
No,
please.
The keyboard is here, but it's not plugged in, unfortunately.
Next Friday.
Next Friday, we'll do that. Yeah, but no, I've got a few things going on. So I've got a couple of different things to do in InDesign. Maybe the people in the chat can choose. There's one interactive one and one that covers a whole range of skills. I don't know which one to start with. If it helps, the interactive one's got kittens.
Yes, kittens.
So,
or do you want to start with unicorns?
We could start with unicorns. Actually, if I just pop across into Illustrator, you can actually see that unicorn. So
Julia is already saying in the chat, there's a unicorn staring into Stephanie's window. Yes, because everything
What's
is
an RP?
Yeah, I mean, the reason is everything is delayed at the moment, right? So my garden furniture will not arrive anytime soon. So I decided to lie on my unicorn instead. So I inflated it because I can't go on holiday, like none of us can. And that's why I have a unicorn on the balcony now.
I think it's great that you do that, especially given that you live opposite Buckingham Palace and that you're out on the balcony sat on your unicorn.
I live in the city. I don't live in Westminster. Yeah, but I gave you the inspiration because you watched me inflating.
You did. I was nearly crying, actually.
Definitely the new muse.
and I had my dinner last night and saw because you were talking about your unicorn repair kit, and I just and it just
because I have two unicorns.
It just got
I need to repair
unicorn. Oh no, my unicorn is down.
Yeah, I ordered something from Amazon and it was not as it should be, and I was wondering how to repair it. And then I asked Tony, do you think I can use my unicorn repair kit for that? And Tony was like, what? I've never heard that before.
Made my eyes leak. Yeah. It's going to do it now, so I'm going to stop.
Sorry.
It's okay. Did anybody choose, by the way? Did we choose the interactive one or the other one first?
Christy is saying interactive.
Interactive. We'll do that one first. Yeah. It's only got a little bit of interactivity in it. Pardon me, but there's a couple of other things.
Sandrine is asking kittens.
Yeah, there'll be kittens. Yeah, there will always be kittens. So,
and there's already a nice compliment on your hat, Tony. So
is there? Oh,
yeah,
I've got these. Look, 3D glasses.
And I thought Tony is waiting for the next eclipse.
Well, no, they're awesome. But I just don't get it. These things don't work because you lot don't look 3D. Yeah, but out here, these are fine. I don't know.
You are 3D, Tony.
Glasses or not.
Yeah.
I've got 2D aspirations. So anyway, I'm just going to choose something really straightforward for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a quick interaction for pet fans, showing some of my pet family here. And I'm going to just choose something. I'm going to go really old school, 800, 600. Some of us will remember when that was a resolution of screens, and indeed lower than that. But that's what I'm going to choose here in InDesign. Why is that still in there? But anyway, I'm going to choose that and just create a brand new document like so. Okay. And let me just move you guys out of the way. I want to try and shrink you down a little bit if I can. There we go. Right in the way. right in the way. Good. And I just changed my workspace out here. I think I'm going to go for Essentials Classic. So that way I've got the little control strip at the top there, because I like using that. And then I'm going to bring in a couple of things. I'll make a master page first, as I always do, or edit the current master page. So to do that, I could go to the Pages panel and double click on the master just there. But we all know that the default master in InDesign starts with the letter A. So instead, I'm going to use the jump to page command, which is Command J, Control J on Windows, type A and hit return. Now that's a lot quicker than doing it by going and clicking on user interface elements and so on. So if you can do that, do that. You can always confirm you're in the master. Down at the bottom of the document window here, it tells you what page you're on, and you can also see that in the Pages panel. So I'll just tap M here to get a rectangle. I will draw out a rectangle like so. Okay, and it's got no fill and a black stroke. So I'll hold down Shift and tap X to swap those things over. If you caught the Illustrator stream a couple of weeks ago, then you'll know all of those like ninja shortcuts to add fills and change things around. What I ought to do as well is actually introduce or name this layer. So I'll just call this BG just here, because even master pages have layers. And I'm going to add a new layer, which I'm going to call content. Just there, like so. And then I'm going to do Command J, Control J, 1, return. And now I'm back on page 1. Okay, so if I had my selection tool and clicked anywhere, I wouldn't be selecting anything, because that's on the master page. I'm going to jump across into Bridge. Okay, so you should be seeing Bridge here. I'm not going to maximize it on top of InDesign, so hopefully you can see that floating all right there. Can you see that all right, Stephanie and Emma?
Yep.
Does it look okay?
All good.
Excellente. And here I've got some pictures of some of my animals at various stages in their life. And I'm in the metadata view, so the metadata workspace just here. And you can see that the one at the top here is Daisy JPEG, okay, in the file name. And if I come down a little bit into the IPTC core, okay, so that's the International, I think it's International Press and Telecommunications Council, I think. Not 100% sure or bothered. But it's one of those things anyway.
Essential information we're missing out on.
Information. And what we've got here is this description field, because the description field should describe the image. Now here I've just written Daisy Bunny inside that field. And you see if I go through a few other things, I've got Flower Pot Daisy just there. Here I've got Jessie, okay, one of my dogs, and Jessie Puppy, okay, and Jessie and Tilly. So I'm not going to go through the whole lot, but just so you can see that they do have, okay, that description or something in that description field. All right, so I've added that manually here inside of Adobe Bridge. So I'm going to quit out of Bridge because I don't actually need that running anymore. And I'm going to set a couple of things up. So the first thing I'm going to set up is I'm going to set up a frame just here. So I'm going to get my frame tool, F, to do that. And I'm going to draw, holding down the Shift key, like so, a frame like this. Okay, and I'm going to set a couple of things up about that. So what I can do is, if I just go to the fitting things, if I can just get the zoom stuffy out the way, not quite, there we go. Okay, and I think actually I'll just switch to Essentials just for a moment so I can use the properties panel here. I'm just going to set up how this fits the frame, or indeed I could actually right click on it. I could have done that actually and gone to the frame fitting options. Okay, and what I want this to do is I want it to fill the frame proportionally from the center. I'm not going to add any crop amounts, but I'm just going to hit OK. All right, now that means any content that's placed into that rectangle, okay, is going to fill that frame proportionally, and I'll be adding stuff for that in a moment. But before I do that, I'm going to right click here. Okay, I'm going to come down to this captions option and choose caption setup. Okay, so I want to set this up to use something from the metadata of whatever is in that container. So you'll see there's lots of stuff I can choose inside of here, but if I can just find description, I could have started typing it, I guess, but there we are, description. I don't need to add anything after. I'm going to put that below the image, so the caption will appear below the image. I'm going to offset that by something like 10 pixels, I think would be good. And let's create a paragraph style for that. So if I just do new paragraph style, like so, which should appear. Just making sure that it hasn't appeared on another screen. No, there we go. Okay, let's go for some character formats. So I'll just leave that at Medium Pro just for the moment. I'll take that up to 16 points just there. And the character color will be white. Actually, I think I'm going to go, let's go wacky and do something else. Let's do Helvetica condensed or something. If I start typing condensed, oh, continue it. Okay, fine. Let's find something else. I've only just moved this machine up. Go on.
Julia is saying, I feel very warm sympathy for everybody remembering old screen resolutions right now.
Yeah, we started a whole conversation in the chat now.
Yeah.
Oh, what about screen resolutions?
Yeah, and Stephen is saying, when I started, screens were 80 by 60 and green text. If you wanted graphics, you had to write PostScript or LaTeX text by hand and see what came off the printer.
Kids these days don't know they were born. But this is the best nerd club I go to all week, this one, when we start people talking about screen res. It's great. Okay, and the final decision I want to make here, just in case you've never done this before, okay, is I'm going to make sure that the caption goes onto the same layer as the image. And I could group those together if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to hit OK. I'm then going to right-click one last time on this frame. Okay, I'm going to come down to captions and I'm going to choose generate live caption. And then I'm going to zoom in to that for you. And you can see that here's a caption. It says this really nice little sentence. It says no intersecting link, which means basically there's nothing there. Ooh, so, but I'm not too worried about that. Now, I need a number of these. Go on, say again.
Sammy is asking something for you. InDesign looks very technical. How would I go about learning this from scratch?
Yeah, some beginner tips.
Yeah, there's well, actually, I'm gonna point you out to a couple of resources towards the end, actually. But there's a number of different places you can do it. So there are courses on LinkedIn Learning, formerly lynda.com. There are courses on Skillshare. That, in fact, there's in-app learning as well for InDesign as well, I think. So a lot of the apps have that. It's not as technical as it looks. It's probably because I'm doing something that is a bit technical just at the moment. And you'll see as we go on, when we start making another document later, that it's not that scary. Might seem scary, might seem like there's lots of numbers and fields and controls, but honestly it isn't. And there's loads of places you can learn. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, now, I don't know how well you can see this, but can you see the sort of slightly lighter grey area here around my document? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Now, this is called the Paceboard, and in InDesign, it's kind of an object. And at the moment, it's not going to be large enough for what I actually need. So to do that, for this particular document, I need to go and change the setup for the Paceboard. So I'm going to go into the preferences. You'd find this inside of the edit menu on Windows. Okay, and just into this section here, guides and Paceboard. Okay, and I'm just going to change my horizontal margins here to, I think I'll go to 2000 pixels there, and my vertical margins, let's go 800 just there. And you'll see what this does in a second. Right, it's given me a much larger Paceboard. Right, and I need that because objects can't exist beyond the Paceboard. So I'm going to select those two things, and I'm just going to drag them up here like so. Okay, and then I'm going to group those together. I should have grouped them actually earlier. Now I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key, just as I would in Illustrator and other applications, a lot of other applications, to create a copy, and start making a copy like this. Okay. But once I've done that, I'm not releasing the trackpad that I'm working on. That would be a mouse button if you were using that. I'm going to release the Option key or Alt key, and I'm going to start hitting the right arrow key on my keyboard. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Can you see these like ghost rectangles appearing just to the side of it? So I've got a bunch of ghost rectangles there. 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to hit the up arrow one time. Just there, I'm going to come down a bit further and hit it again. I'm going to get more frames than I actually need. But can you see that? Creates me a whole grid array of frames in one go. Then it's time for me to place some content. So I'm going to use the shortcut Command D. That would be File Menu and Place. And I'm just going to come across and move this out of the way, find the Behance stuff in there. And I've got a little folder called Furry Friends. I'm going to select that whole bunch of furry friends just there and hit open. They then get loaded into this cursor, and I should be able to just come along and click in each of these things just to load this content.
And can we specify, Tony, that these are actually your pets?
They actually are my pets.
They're not random.
They're not random, no. I was going to throw a zebra in there just for fun, because we live just up the road from a wildlife park that we have a membership to. So we can go whenever we want. And I was going to stick a zebra in just for giggles. We got a zebra? Yes, we've got a zebra. It makes a mess of the living room, man. It's really bad.
Right next to the unicorn.
Right next to the unicorn. Now, let's have a quick look at these images here. Can you see this one says Bilbo kitten? Bilbo doing sleeps. Look at him. Oh, there's Bilbo and Tilly when they were kittens.
They're siblings, right?
They are siblings, yeah. Bilbo was born a day after Tilly, though. He was the last one of the litter to be born. Oh, and he was born into like the following birth. Actually, I think he was just, he was probably just asleep. Probably that's his normal state of affairs. Here's Buddy, our dachshund. There he is doing sleeps. There he is as a puppy. There he is with Tilly because they're like best buddies, and so on. Here's Roxy, little Daisy when she came to our house, Jessie. So they are. You've met the whole zoo now. So more of these are pictures, and I'm going to make it possible for you to see all of these later on rather than focusing on that right now.
Yeah, but okay. Ray's asking if they've given permission for the pictures to be used, because model releases,
Yeah, no, they're cool with it. They just said, yeah, Dad, that's fine. Yeah, go it. It's one of them, Buddy's got his own Instagram.
So we're not even joking here. We're actually...
No, I think it's at Buddy Yip Yip, I think.
That's it.
And Carol is asking if you have goats.
No, we don't. Nor do we have donkeys, although my wife would like to buy a donkey.
But next Friday, though, I'll probably be there. Go out and...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm never going to India ever again.
That story needs to be told.
Doesn't need to be told. Right, okay, so now I've got all of those things selected, I am going to align them together. So they are now all stacked as one bunch, like so. Okay, so all of those images are just there, and you can see all of the text. Now, the main thing I was trying to show you there was, even if you're not doing an interactive document, if you've got images that need a caption underneath them, put the caption in the metadata. In some companies, some large companies, it's actually required to do that. They have really strict metadata structures. But even if you're working on your own, it's so much easier to type the caption in one place and use it wherever you need to use it in that way. And you can use other information too, of course. Okay, if you were a photographer, you could have perhaps have used the file information instead as a caption. So if you were producing a catalogue of shots for somebody, you could use the file info. So if maybe you shot an event like well, you're not going to shoot a wedding at the moment, are you really, unfortunately? But back when we are shooting weddings outdoors and we know there's more than 2 people there standing closer than 2 meters apart, that a day we can look forward to, then you get the idea, right? You could put file names underneath there and choose the pictures and so on. So we've got those elements together. I am going to switch the workspace here to the really poorly named Interactive for PDF. So it's not the best name for that, I don't think. In fact, is there another one? There's digital publishing. Do you know what? That's better. I'll use that one because it's got these panels just here, animation, timing, and lots of other things. I'm going to go ahead and choose this panel, object states. Okay, and I'm going to create what's called an MSO, a multi-state object, by clicking this button here. Right, so just to summarize where we are, we've got all of those things. They're all grouped together. They're all grouped individually, and then they're all stacked on top of each other, occupying the same space. That isn't completely necessary to do that, but for this, it would probably be the best experience. Okay, so I'm going to tap that, and suddenly this becomes populated with all of these different states. And you'll see that if I click on a different state, you can see that content. And that's fine for me in InDesign, but we need a way for users to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of simple user interface elements. So I'm going to draw a rectangle here like so. Okay, I'm going to swap over the fill and stroke color and then just change that. We'll do that. I think we ought to change the opacity of that perhaps slightly in just a moment or two, maybe. Let me just hide this stuff here. Okay, and I'm also going to use the pen tool just there. Can you hear my dogs?
Yeah, I was just able to hear it.
Yeah, that's the postman. Hate the postman. He comes every day. I bark at him, but he still comes back. He's crazy. Okay, so I've got that. I think I'm actually going to use my direct selection tool here because that is a bit super. I mean, I'm trying to make it nice and big and easy for you to see anyway, but I don't think that's actually my dog. I think that's next door's dog.
Dorina is asking, what's today's topic?
InDesign tips and stuff. That's what it is today.
If you tune in later, Tony is in InDesign.
Yes.
With his cat.
And Julia is saying, I can hear the unicorn.
It might be the unicorn.
No, the unicorn is very well behaved. It's quiet, it's clean, it takes baths occasionally.
Who's making the unicorn noise?
I think we have an undercover.
Super random. Anyway, right, now I've got those two things. A little known thing is you can actually name things inside of InDesign, and it's sometimes useful to do that. Okay, so here you can see I have two polygons. Okay, so and they are highlighted. So this means that one's selected. It's another way to select things. Very useful when you're making interactive documents here. But I'm just going to simply come along and edit the name of this item, which I should be able to double click and do. It's not letting me though today. There we go. Right, so I'm going to call this one next, just there like so, and then this one on this side. Okay, I'm going to call this one previous when I can actually get to it. There we go. Like so. And unusually for me, I've done it all in caps, but I think it makes it easier to see. So once I've done that and I've got those two elements together, let's just bring that in so it's nice and tight to that one. I'm going to go ahead and go to the buttons and forms panel just here. Now, for those of you that know your InDesign history, somebody in this room, in this very room today, had something to do with this panel. So that's your homework. Look that up, find out who did that. I don't need to, there's a type drop down here. I don't need to pick this thing up, right? Here's another tip for you. You don't actually need to activate that. If you choose an appropriate action, then it's going to automatically designate this as a button. So what I'm going to do is go down into these EPUB only states just here. I'm going to choose go to next state just there. It then needs to know which multi-state object it's associated with. Well, there is only actually one just there, and that's this one here, which I didn't name, which was a bit bad really. But anyway, that's there. I'll then go to this one, just repeat that. Okay, I'm going to go to previous state just there. Everything else is good. And I'm just going to click on this panel here, which is the EPUB interactivity panel. Let's just make that bigger. So now if I click, you can see how everything there is changing. And of course I could do way more with that, but I'm just going to leave that at that. So I did also say that I'd make this so that everybody could see it. So what I could do is go up to the top here and go to this Publish Online button, which I'm now going to click. And I get this dialog just here. Let's call this Tony's Menagerie, like so. And we'll go some of my pets at various stages in their lives.
Ray is asking, is there a circus suit to go with your top hat?
Yes, I am the circus.
Yeah, we had this discussion just before the stream if we should do a fancy dress stream every Friday. What do
the
you
answer
think?
to that is yes.
No one
Okay.
can go to fancy dress parties anymore, so I think we should totally do
Yeah.
a fancy dress stream.
I think I agree. You've got my vote. Let me just check through this.
What do you think? Put it in a chat. And Dorina is asking, can you actually animate in InDesign? I thought it's only for page design for books, magazines, etc. No, you can also do interactive PDFs. And I have to say, I used that all the time before XD existed. XD is only 3.5 years old, and I had a life before XD, and that was in InDesign mainly. Yeah. And I did exactly that.
It is, and one of the other targets of InDesign is a publishing tool. Right, so one of the other forms of publication, of course, is EPUB, and the EPUB FXL format, so fixed layout, is this kind of stuff that you would get if you've ever used iBooks or anything like that to actually consume content. You can make that content inside of InDesign. Now, you do have to do a little bit of tweaking to get it through the Apple mechanism to get it into iBooks, but you can do it from here. So do check that out. Maybe at some other point in the future could have a stream on making interactive stuff, the whole thing. But anyway, so here I'm going to just leave that. I don't really need to do that much in the thumbnail for this because I'm just going to make it all dead straightforward. I think I'm going to go for high scaling just there, like so, and I'll do publish. Okay, and this will then get uploaded to indd.adobe.com. Okay, and there will be a link for it generated at the same time. And then it can be viewed in any standards compliant device, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a phone, a tablet, or a web or a desktop browser, you can consume it. I'm just going to copy that. It's a very long URL because it's got sort of kind of encryption around it. Shall I paste that into the chat? Can I do that from this side? Don't know if I can I?
I think
anyway.
you can
Yeah,
if you if you have the chat open and you can copy and paste it.
Let me
just going nuts on fancy dress.
You might as well just read the comments while you're there. join into the chat.
I don't see them. But anyway, there you go. I'm just dropping that in.
And
so hopefully you can see that.
Caroline is saying, how do you know we aren't already in fancy dress?
That's the point we were making before the stream. We're saying we're already going nuts. So
Incognito Rufus, he's the social media expert. He should set up a fancy dress Adobe live stream hashtag, and then you all post your pictures, how you're watching Adobe Live in your fancy dress. But yeah, I'll leave that to Rufus.
Okay, so here we go. I'm just loading this up in the browser. So here it is in the browser. Okay, I didn't quite sort that background out, but maybe I could do that and update it. But there you go. That all works from there. So if you want to see that at a later point and have a look at my fabulous little menagerie, then fill your boots. Go and have fun with that. Okay, all good? Fabulous. Right then, so back to InDesign. I am going to close that document. Okay, I think I'll save it just in case I need to work on it later on. So I'm just going to call that pets. Amazing that actually is my dog.
Is that the postman again?
Or still?
I What's probably happening is the postman has probably come up the drive and is probably talking to somebody over the wall at the front, and so Buddy will want to get out and just do running at him, barking like he's some sort of giant thingy. And but anyway, as long as you can't hear it too much.
Sorry, yeah, no, your dog is fine. Jonathan is asking, is there an animation to make it like an online magazine with page turns?
No, and to be honest, the page turn thing doesn't, what my own personal opinion, the page turn thing involves you actually creating something called a runtime bitmap. So whichever does it has to basically create an image of the page, and then that whole thing, that animation works with that image of the page, which adds to the overall load of the page as it's being delivered to you. I often wonder if that page curl effect is actually worth it, you know, for slowing the user down. There are much more attractive things you can do in the offloading and loading of a page than a page curl. I think that you could do things that were more sophisticated rather than doing that. But no, there isn't one in there, and for good reason, really. They did have one quite a long time ago. I think it was an InDesign CS5, which is way back. I think that's around about 2010, 2009. I think somewhere in that sort of ballpark. But there you go. So no, there isn't one with that, but think about something more sophisticated. I think there's plenty of things there. So I'm going to create a new document here. So Command N, Control N to do that. This one is going to be in millimeters, and it's going to be 210. Okay, my 210, which is a format known as A4 square, much underused in my opinion. I'll give it a name straight off. I'm going to call this Sofa So Good. So say that slowly, and you'll see it's a cheesy joke. All right, so we've got those two things together. It doesn't matter about the orientation because it's square. I am going to have, let's have 12 pages in here to start off with. Facing pages would be good, so there'll be spreads like that. I don't want a primary text frame. I'm going to leave everything else here for the margins and whatever as they are, and I'm not going to bother adding some bleed. In fact, I'm going to drop these down just to 10 millimeters just for now. Okay, and hit create. So I've got a nice brand new document here, and I'm going to switch my workspace back. I'll use the Essentials workspace just for now, because that way I can park the Zoom toolbar right at the top of the screen. I could put it on another screen, but then you'd see me looking at you like this all the time, and I think that's disconcerting. But anyway, so I'm going to need the Pages panel for this. Okay, first of all, I'm going to get an image into this, right? So I'm going to add a layer or two first. So I'll need my Windows thing here for layers. I have no idea what's going on out there. Sorry about that. And I'm going to call this one backgrounds. Just there. I'm going to add a new layer.
Catherine is saying, sounds like the barking chain in 101 Dalmatians.
Well, it could be, because sometimes that one of them starts and the other one starts, and there's a dog next door that doesn't like Buddy. So that one would be probably out the front barking at Buddy, Buddy, and Buddy barking back at him. But anyway, not to worry. So there we are. Right.
So now my question is, how do the cats feel about this noise?
The cats just sleep through it.
They're just used to it now.
Yeah, they're just used to it. It must be because there's no Sharon's actually out doing the shopping, so it's probably because there's no one here. So he's just saying, I know one of you's still around. Where are you? It could be anything. He's not distressed, though, that he just enjoys doing that for some reason.
They're just on the loose.
It's just on the loose. Absolutely. Right. So I'm going to place a cover just here. So what I'm going to do is just move this down a bleed shade. And in here, I've got a cover that I prepared. Just that. Is it that one? There we go. Okay. So I'm going to bring this along. Okay, and I'll place this down. Let me just move you guys out of the way just for a second.
We have a very entertaining crowd, right? Today,
Yeah.
Fridays are just going
Chat is
for it.
telling jokes.
Dad jokes today.
Yeah, it's nothing, you know, a bit of dad jokes are good, you know, it doesn't do any harm, does it? It's all
Very
good
sofa
fun.
inspired, sofas and animals.
Well, I thought so. I mean, you know, Rufus's idea is such a good idea. I thought we ought to honour it with some sort of publication, you know, involving sofas. And this is how I see it. You know, right now,
Brilliant.
everybody's kind of crowded around on their sofas. You know, they're in their comfy place, and you know, nobody's facing the wrong way. We're all facing in towards each other. I think that's nice. I think it's a nice thing. Now, I'm actually going to copy that, right? And I'm going to go to page 2. So I'm going to use the jump to page shortcut, even though I can see page 2 from here, right? Command J to return, because I kind of want to get that idea of you using that jump to page thing all the time. And then I'll paste that down. Okay. Because one of the things I'd like to do here is eventually distribute this as a PDF. So if you want it, you can print it out and color some of it in, because I've put some coloring in there for you, because I wasn't invited to color in the Behance thing. So anyway, but here's the thing. This file, I'm actually going to open it up. Now, here's another tip for you on how you can quickly send, and we've done this in Illustrator before, so if you know it from there, then you know it inside of InDesign. If you want to send any placed document back to its parent editor, all you need to do is hold down the Alt or Option key and double click like so, and it opens in its parent editor. Now here in Illustrator, which is its parent editor, you can see I've got 2 layers. Okay, I've got this color layer underneath the black key layer just there. Okay, so everything works that way. Just hold on to that thought. Okay, so I'm going to go back to InDesign, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click here. Okay, I'm going to come down to Object Layer Options, and I can actually see the layers of the Illustrator file. So I'm going to turn off the color layer just there. If I turn on Preview, okay, you can now see that I'm doing that, but without creating a separate version of a file. So it's all about file efficiency, okay, and keeping content lightweight and usable that way. Okay, right, so we've got that for some colouring in. There's some more colouring in to do as well, so I might as well grab another bunch of files just here. Okay, so I'm just going to use the place command, and if I go ahead and choose Behance Live InDesign, I drew some mandalas last week, if you remember, in Photoshop. Okay, these ones were done in Illustrator, and I'm just going to go ahead and place those on each of these pages.
And we have a question to that. Jonathan is asking, I'm trying to think how I would put all those sofas in a circle.
Right, well, now that's a very, very good question, actually, Jonathan. And what I'm going to do is answer it just as soon as I've resized that. So I actually used a separate plugin to do that for me quickly in Illustrator, right? So that's how I did it there. But what I could do is I could bring out the individual sofas, and let's just say they were all horizontally aligned, more or less into place, just draw some guide circles for where you want them to be, and then rotate them around individually, okay, in place. Yeah, and then if you needed to move them, you can actually go ahead and set a transformation point to rotate them. But I used a separate tool from a plugin called, I think it's called Subscribe, I think, possibly. And it's from Astute Graphics, but it uses something called the Object Transform tool. So I already had the paths there, I had the sofas, and I could just click on 2 points and then align them and arrange them around. But you can do it manually. It just takes a lot longer. It took me about 10 minutes to do that, to align all of those up and get them exactly the spacing I wanted from there. But if you were doing it manually, probably take a little bit longer than that. Still doable. Okay, so we've got that just there. Where was I? I think I was up to about page 5. So Command J, 5, just to go there. Oh, there was the next one on.
Looks like that plant.
It's really satisfying.
Well, I did actually.
Look, I have it right here.
Crops are coming in. It is the same
that the one?
It is. I was channeling your plant when I did this one here.
First
But
the
I honestly
unicorn, now the
thought-
plants.
That's a real thing.
So next week we're doing Acrobat for designers. And what I thought I'd do is I would finish this particular thing, and use it in next week's stream. But then I'd make the PDF available. I mean, I could make it available beforehand, actually. Then you could just download it. And if you wanted to just sit there and do, print it out, sit there and do some coloring in, you could. Or you could open the PDF in Photoshop and do some coloring in Photoshop. It's nice. Just takes your mind off the world. You can just sit there and just add color and enjoy yourself.
Just a reason for everyone to come back next Friday, 12 to 1. We'll be back.
We will.
More hats.
Here every day. Well, I'm not here every day. Yeah, that would be too much.
Tony's here
For you or for the audience?
For the audience. So I think it's
Fridays, but we are here Monday
Friday.
to Friday. Rufus set this up for us, so we all have an enjoyable time in the creative community during lockdown.
Yeah, and have a chat over lunch as well. Bit of a
And now
break,
that-
creative breaks.
Now that lockdown was extended for 3 more weeks in the UK, I thought I'll put a unicorn on my balcony.
There you go. Do you know, I've actually loaded some text in this cursor, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the escape key to get rid of it, because I'm going to get rid of a few pages just here. So I've just highlighted those pages that don't have any information on. Actually, that's too many. Let me just highlight this range.
Paul is asking, could you step and repeat the rotate option?
Yeah, you kind of could actually. Yeah, you could if you wanted to do that. You could try one of those mechanisms to do it. I haven't used step and repeat in such a long time here in InDesign. InDesign's curious because it's got like a sort of an earlier version of the Illustrator drawing engine in it, but some of the things they've done with it are actually kind of nice, really. Let me just go for step and repeat here. Yeah, you see, you haven't got a rotation option there, so you would need to use one of the transformation tools, such as the rotate tool just there. So let me just zoom in here for a second. It's another reason I love trackpads, because you can just go like that, boom, and you zoomed in. They're really good. Let me just get the pen tool here and just draw something simple like that just for a moment. Okay, and I'll grab the rotate tool just here. Right, now, first of all, I actually need to make sure I've got the whole shape selected. So let me just get my selection tool and make sure that is selected, just not an individual point. I'm going to go for the rotate tool. Okay, and what you can do with this tool is you can hold down the Option key or Alt key and click. Now, there's a tiny, tiny, tiny transformation mark just there, but for some reason in InDesign they're super, super small, so it's unlikely you'll be able to see it, but basically it's going to rotate around that point. And let's say I wanted 16 of these around in a circle. I could type 360, the number of degrees in a circle, divided by 16 in that field. Okay, and you can see it does that calculation for me. I could then hit copy, okay, and then repeat the transformation, which is in InDesign, it's 3 keys. I can't remember what it is actually. Transform again, transform sequence again. Oh, come on, there we go. So I could just go like that and transform those around. So you could kind of draw your seed shape, I guess, if you wanted to. Okay, and then do something like that. But in Photoshop, if you want to just use that grid drawing option from last week's stream, right at the beginning of last week's stream, we did a thing with grid drawing that is so easy and so satisfying to do. Just set yourself up 8 divisions, get a pen, a brush tip, and just start drawing inside the segments, and you'll see it just mirrors it the whole way around. Very satisfying thing to do. Okay, so just to recap on where I was just before that, I've got 7 pages in this document now, including this blank page at the end. I am going to place a Word document in here, this book copy document there. Okay, and so the cursor is loaded with that. Now, sometimes you're bringing in text for a publication and you don't know how much text is actually there, okay, and you might need to add more pages. The quickest way to do that is to use autoflow to do it. And so if I take my cursor here and hold down the Shift key, you might see that the cursor changes just a little bit. You get sort of a wavy arrow, and that takes it into autoflow mode, and it will use the margins of the document, okay, and then add as many pages as are necessary. So if I click now, you can see that it's added 3 more pages, okay, to exhaust all of this text. Okay, and what I did was I did a bunch of different things here that I was going to add for information for each page. I'm just going to shorten this one down because this is going to be just about coloring just here. Okay, so color your world. If I just highlight that top line just there, what I need to do really is to create a new style. I'm going to switch workspaces to typography here and go to paragraph styles and create a new paragraph style, which I need to then edit. So I'll call this heading like so. Let me just move this across and turn preview on so you can see some of it. Now I actually created a font for today, which is called Isofolation.
Oh no, the chat's gonna restart now with all the sofa jokes, and we're gonna lose everyone.
I did. No, we're not. It's gonna go. It's all good.
Let's go technical. Let's go technical. Dorina is asking.
Yeah, bring it back.
Is there a way to resize an image within the page without hiding parts from it during the scaling?
Run that by me again. Is there a way to?
Is there a way to resize an image within the page without hiding parts from it during the scaling?
Yes, there is. Just give me a second to get clear of this. Okay, I'm only going to do just a couple of things here for this. I just want to put some spacing in underneath this, so I always have some spacing, and I'll jump straight to that question. Okay, so I've got a heading thing just here which I can apply quickly. I'm just going to click into the next heading underneath. I'm going to use quick apply command. That would be control on Windows and return. Gets you to quick apply. I'm going to type HE. As soon as heading is highlighted in that list, hit return, and then that's applied really quickly like so, which is super, super beneficial. Right, I'm going to hit the escape key to come out of that, and I am quickly going to create a brand new document here. So I'm going to use exactly the same settings as the last template I used, and I'll place a file. So originally I was going to do something in this sort of format, so I created this in Dimension. I was channeling my inner Redeem and Clardy. This is where I was going when I thought of these two things. I was thinking, I'm Redeem, and also Clardy at the same time. So
with the 3D glasses on.
With the 3D glasses on. So I thought this is a Möbius strip, of course, because it feels like this is a chair, right? And it feels like you've been on it forever. So that's why there's the Möbius strip just there. And this is the rest of our world at the moment. The world outside looks a bit strange, okay, and it's all wobbly. We've got a hat like mine just there. We've got a laptop with another view of the outside world and all of that stuff. You can read everything else you want into it.
And we have a couple questions going as well.
Go.
Now, suddenly, yeah, fire them away. So Jack is asking, what program do you make your fonts in?
Illustrator. And I use the font self extension for Illustrator and Photoshop, which costs, if you buy it for both Illustrator and Photoshop, I think it's about 90 quid for both, and it's 60 quid for one, I think. But I make it in there. It's a lot of fun, font self, really nice. I've been working with them on a project for the last couple of months. So I have a brand new thing coming out with them shortly. So. Right, resizing an image without hiding anything. Right. Now,
some more questions, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan is asking, can you share styles between documents, like if you have different styles per client?
Yes, you can. And there are two really nifty ways to do that. The first way is in the paragraph styles and character styles panel. You can go ahead and load paragraph styles. Then you just navigate to the document that has the paragraph styles in. The second, more modern and sophisticated way of doing it is to use Creative Cloud libraries, because you can just go ahead and add a style, okay, to your Creative Cloud library, and that way it's accessible with a click. You can just bring it in like so. Yeah, so you can Yes, you could also create something called, there's a third way, you could actually create something called a snippet, which has the InDesign files in, and just open that, and well, not even open it, you don't even have to commit to opening it. As soon as you actually bring it in before you purge it, which doesn't explain a lot, but because it's an old way of working, but you could do that. When people resize things, frequently, right, they just grab the edge of the frame like so, and they get this kind of experience like that, right?
That's what I do, exactly.
And then they go ahead and
Great.
resize the content, or they use the thing. Right. There is a way to do it, and it's to hold down your system key, so Command on the Macintosh, Control on Windows, and Shift, right? And that then allows you to resize both at the same time.
Right.
Shift is just keeping the proportions, or you could always just tap E on your keyboard that gets you the transform tool, okay, the free transform tool, and just hold Shift to keep the proportions and resize it that way. And it does the content and the container at the same time. Yeah, all good? Perfect.
Great, yes, please.
Right, let me get rid of that one. Right, I'm going to have to jump ahead a little bit here because we're having too much fun. Well, I am. Is everybody else having fun? Is it just me, or is everybody else having fun as well? I don't.
You're like having a blast while everyone's like...
Oh, a great time. So, I'm going to just add another page at the end here. Let me just do that again. All right, so let's make sure I've got that page active, which I do at the end here, and I'm going to add a couple more pages. I'll use the panel to do that. Earlier on, we were talking about repeat grids, which is a feature of XD. And Rufus and I, we know the InDesign skills to emulate repeat grids. Okay, so what I was going to do at the end of this thing here was I was going to create, okay, a headline called podcasts, like so, or podcasts.
Why not?
Like so. There we go. See how quickly I applied that style using that. It's cool, isn't it? I'm going to hit escape because I've got my heading just there. Then I'm going to set up something that I would like for my repeat grid. Okay, so I do have text for this elsewhere, so I'm going to kind of fake it just for the minute. But my repeat grid is going to consist of a cover for a podcast. Okay, and then a star rating. So I'm going to get the polygon tool just here and draw a star. Now, to start off with, it will draw me a hexagon. Okay, but I can change that into a star, okay, by hitting the space bar, which switches the drawing mode, okay, and then using my arrow keys to change the number of sides, and my right arrow key here to change the inset. So I'll do that, and I'm going to apply a fill to that so it's nice and easy to see. You don't need one for the cover. Then there would be a text frame like so, which I'm going to fill with some placeholder text, which will give you some information about the podcast. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill with placeholder text. Here's another tip. If you don't want to use the sort of Lorem Ipsum Greek text there, you can hold down the Command or Control key when you choose fill with placeholder text, and then you can choose.
Whoa.
From there. There you go, you see. Yeah.
And I did not know that.
Well, yeah, there's an extension where you can actually add Klingon.
Of course there is.
Of course there is. So if you actually want Klingon, winning. Right. Okay, so let me just stretch that out a bit. You get the idea. That is the basic. I'd maybe add a couple more things here, but that's the basic framework of my grid. Now, I kind of showed you this a little bit earlier. That's too big at the minute. I'm going to
Sandrine is saying podcats.
Podcasts, yeah.
Mind blown.
That's it. We're going to do a fancy dress stream and the podcasts.
I really did want to try and get the cats in here for you, today, but they're not. This is a workplace. It's not safe for the kittens. Right, so here we are.
You're just
I've
worried
got,
they get better in InDesign than you.
well, there is that as well. Also, Bilbo's wicked at Illustrator. Right, so I've got my framework set up just there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the Option key. I did this earlier, actually, with the other frames. I'm going to hold that down and drag down like so. Okay, whoops, daisy. I sort of scaled out at the same time. Let me try that again, this time with feeling. And go back to that page. What happened there? That was very odd. Right, okay, we'll try that one more time. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to drag that down holding the Option key. So I'm telling it to start a copy. Then I'm just going to use the, that's not working, you know. Try that one more time. Oh, it's because I didn't hold down the Option key to start off with. Up arrow key, like so, and Shift just to lock it all together. There you are. I've got my little repeat grid just there. Now I can also change the spacing of those. If I start dragging like so, right, you can see that they've all been distorted. But if I'm going to do two things here, the first thing is when I mouse down, I'm going to pause. That enters something called PUM, or patient user mode, okay, which means I'm rewarded for my patience because now I can see what's happening. Now that's the distortion happening live, but if I hold down the space bar, it suddenly changes and you can see now how it's modifying the space rather than the shapes. Okay.
Wow, responsive resize in InDesign.
See, Rufus and I, we were doing responsive resizing when you lot were still running around going, ooh, unicorn. Okay, now I'm going to place. How many have I got there? How many do I got? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh no, I've got too many. Anyway, I've got a whole bunch of different podcast covers just here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and add them in the order that I kind of wrote them up, just in case I end up bringing in the text for them. And I've just realized I've gone and used, ooh, that was odd. What I didn't do was actually set up the sizing for those in the first place. So I ought to actually select all of those frames just there and very quickly do fill the frame proportionally. So I've got all of those. So here's a bunch of different podcasts: Reply All, 99% Invisible, Design Matters with Debbie Millman, Invisible Podcast. That should be Vectorgenarians, my podcast, mine and Dave Clayton's, Radio Lab, InDesign Secrets, He Shoots, He Draws, which is Dave Clayton's, and Glyn Dewis. You had Glyn Dewis on last week. They do that podcast, and then the Honest Designers podcast. By the way, there's a resource for you for learning InDesign. Dave Clayton's How Do I Do That in InDesign? That's kind of handy. Each page is a task-based thing. Available at all good bookstores and Amazon.
Good job.
Find my affiliate link.
What an influencer.
What I could do now, I could use that exact same trick here, right, to change their star rating. So I could hold down the Option key here, drag outwards, and just add some extra stars there like so. So I've got lots of flexibility for exceptions. So if I needed to create a bunch of exceptions, equally I could do it across the whole bunch just here. So just do that, add some, how many did I add? 3 in between. Do that like so. InDesign's alignment, dragging alignment is brilliant.
Paul is asking, can you run that past us again?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. What, the drawing the whole grid or just the stars? I could use just the stars there, actually.
Yeah, it's the same, isn't it? So,
yeah, it's the same. So let me just do, let me get rid of all of those. Okay, and what I'm going to do is select all of the stars just here. Right, the first step is because I want to drag a copy, I need to hold down the Alt or Option key, start dragging. I can then release that key straight away in InDesign. It doesn't matter. I'll take this over to the side. Okay, and then I'll start tapping the right arrow key here to add more instances in between. Then just to make sure they're all lined up properly, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. That's the last thing I do. Okay, and then when I release that, you can see all of those copies are made. So I could then just come along and say, that's 5 stars, that's 5 stars, Design Matters, that's 4 stars. The Invisible Podcast is 1 star, Radio Lab is 3 stars, InDesign Secrets is 4 stars, sorry, David. He Shoots, He Draws is Dave's watching, so 5 stars. And so on. But you can see how I can do that really, really quickly. The whole thing with drawing stars is interesting because it starts with a polygon. Let me show you how that works. Just how are we? We're pretty much on time, aren't we? So I'll just start drawing here. So now at the moment I'm drawing a star. Now when you're drawing any particular object like this, you can use the arrow keys to use what's called grid drawing mode, like that. Okay, so I'm drawing that as a grid. Now it's important to note I've not released whatever I'm doing this with, in this particular case a trackpad. If I hit the space bar, it enters into a switching mode and goes back to polygons, right? So I can then change the number of sides there, okay, and with my left arrow key, decrease the star inset. You see that? My right arrow key, but the space bar is the switch. If I use the left and right arrow keys, now I'm adding more or less instances. Yeah, but there you go. Shift key at the end, boom, done. All right? Perfect.
Wicked.
There we are. I will do a few more things to this over the course of the week, ready for the Acrobat thing next week. If anybody's desperate for some of this for colouring, the best thing to do is hit me up on Twitter, I guess, at Tony Harmer. And I will make a PDF of the colouring stuff just available if you've got nothing else to colour. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony. That went by fast. We could be entertained for hours, right?
It's the hat, isn't it?
The hat was going for it. Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Thanks to everyone for joining today's session. Thanks, Stephanie. Any final words?
Yeah, thank you all for watching. Thank you, Tony. And next week we will be back with Tony and with a fancy dress live stream. I think we should totally do that. And then Rufus sets up a hashtag, and then you all post your pictures with that hashtag, how you're watching Adobe Live in your fancy dress. And of course, we're here every day, Monday to Friday, not only fancy dress Fridays with Tony from next week onwards. We're here Monday to Friday. Rufus brought that to us, to the UK, so we have something to laugh and learn about during these difficult times.
Definitely. We have some great guests coming up next week. We have, more hat attires, accessories, instruments. I don't know what Tony's going to bring up, but we're here every day from 12 to 1. So yeah, have a great weekend, folks, and see you next Monday.
See you next Monday. Bye.
Bye, everyone.